How do you feel?
I wish I could have been saved by some handsome hunk.
Hello everybody, Mr. Fox here, and welcome back to another episode of the Mr. Fox Report. I'm going a bit more retro than last time for this episode, 1998 to be precise, and it's on the Sega Saturn this time. Remember the Sega Saturn? It was a pretty good system, especially if you were into Japanese culture in general. The EU and US version of the console were sadly less abundant with titles, but one of its gems managed to cross the big pound all the way to us, and that game is Burning Rangers, courtesy of the Sonic team. The old one, the good one that is. The game was considered to be the pinnacle of what the machine could do in 3D at the time. It was particularly praised for its impressive transparency and lighting effect, level design and acrobatic gameplay. Despite all that, even at the time, it wasn't the best looking thing around. Sure, it was colorful aplenty with gorgeous anime cutscene and soundtrack, but it was excessively pixelated and prone to polygon glitches. I mean, look at it, it's somehow gorgeously messy. Back 2 decades ago, it didn't really matter when I got my copy. For me, it was the coolest thing ever. The Saturn was commonly known as a system that couldn't handle 3D graphics as good as its main competitor, the PlayStation. Of course, it would be unfair to ignore titles such as Virtua Fighter 2, Sega Rally, Knights, Dead or Alive, and Fighters Megamix to prove that Sega and other developers could make good 3D games with what they had at the time. But the PlayStation always had the edge when it came to it, to an even greater extent as the years went by. Burning Ranger is a third-person action platformer that takes place in a distant future where a team of firefighters, the Burning Ranger, go on their task to extinguish fire and rescue survivors on various facilities on Earth and in space. You play as one of the new recruits, Shu Amabane and Tillis. There's no fundamental difference in picking one or the other. The game consists of progressing in labyrinthic facility in order to contain and extinguish the fire. There are also survivors that you can rescue by teleporting them to safety. Doing so costs a certain amount of crystals. The crystals serve as energy shield and transportation. It works the exact same way as the rings in Sonic. If you get it, the crystals fly out but can be recollected if you're quick enough. You can gather crystal by extinguishing fire and collecting existing one around. Levels basically consist of long corridors with doors to unlock, with keys or switches to activate and room to visit or not. Saving most of the survivor is totally up to you. However, doing it can grant you additional continues. The game doesn't offer a map to guide you around. Instead, the next direction to take is transmitted to the player by voice from Chris the commander. She will mostly tell you where to go, because of course there will be time when communication will be corrupted. If you're lost, you can press the Z button at any time and Chris will redirect you. It was a pretty neat idea, and it still is, allowing a better flow in gameplay. There are only 4 levels. The last section is a bit longer than the rest though. The game is not very difficult and can be completed in one afternoon session. Burning Rangers is surprisingly playable today. The lack of the right analogic stick for moving the camera is noticeable, but using the bumper buttons to rotate it is okay, and you get into the habit pretty quickly. But for the rest, it feels good and responsive, and you'll be quick going about and jumping everywhere from platforms to avoiding backdraft. Talking about backdraft, there is a neat audio trick that allows you to predict 1 millisecond before it happens. It's paired with another neat gameplay move. When you hear a sound, press back on the D-pad and your character will automatically backflip to avoid being burned to death. It's very cool. I have nothing but love for Burning Rangers. It's far from perfect. Its zero gravity and underwater gameplay sequences aren't especially well designed, and some of the platforming towards the end can be frustrating, but thankfully there are not that many. It is an awesome and charming anime flick with average to bad English voice acting. Most importantly, it has a solid gameplay, great characters and good level design with sparkles of interesting ideas. It is fairly short, but it has the arcade replayability quality to it. A true gem of that era and one of the last title released on the Saturn. I think that's me on Burning Rangers. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.